Hello and welcome to Read the Last Page,
A Yap Session
book club.
with your two favorite long-distance best friends.
The book we read this month is Donuts and Other Proclamations of Love by Jared Reck.
And since we finally read the last page, let's talk about it. Hi, B. How are you?
I'm good. I'm
Good.
tired because, as you know, I went and saw the cabaret last night. So, yeah, I'm tired, but it was so much fun. For anyone who's not following the Broadway lore, Adam Lambert is currently playing as the MC. He was so good. He was like, very quirky and funny.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was this one song where he came out like in a suit with like his hair like looking normal, and like he was just, instead of being like la la, he was like singing just like his true voice, I guess. And he was so good, like it's like, oh yeah, you did, like, I guess he was in second on American Idol or whatever, but like
Did he come in second?
I'm pretty sure
that. I do remember,
but he so could have won. Like, I feel like that year it was like both of them.
Yeah, because it was like him and like I think Chris Allen, correct?
Yeah.
And I remember, this is so random, but I remember my fourth grade class was literally fighting based on who was voting on who. I was team Adam Lambert, and I remember that day we learned about atoms, and I thought it was a sign.
Oh my gosh. Wait, like in science class?
Yeah.
You mean? Oh,
it was
my
like,
gosh.
This is a sign, and then he lost. Or he got
That's so
runner-up.
sad.
I know. I was really into him. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was really good. When you walk in the theater, they like put stickers on over your camera on your phone that says like, keep it at the Kit Kat Club. It's like, don't take pictures, which obviously you can take it off so easily, and some people tried to take pictures and they got in trouble, but it was just like very immersive. Like, you walked in and you're like going through like a dirty, like messy, like tunnel down into the Kit Kat Club, and like there was like dancers and musicians like up on little stages, like just like by the bar, by the bathroom, like it was like an experience from the second you walked in, like the second you walked in, the show started, if that makes sense. So
that's cool.
It was really cool.
I wonder what the difference is between like the regular cabaret and then cabaret at the Kit Kat Club, because I don't understand. Like, I feel like that's a new thing, is it not?
Well, it's just like the theater, and I hope that I'm understanding this right. The theater is called the Kit Kat Club, where they were.
Yeah. So like it's interesting because I don't think it's always been called that though. So I feel like there's like a difference in performances. Oh, sorry. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I have no idea.
I'm just curious about it
because I've never seen it before last night. So
right, interesting. Well, you want to know something? Cabaret, Liza Minnelli's, who originated Sally Bowles on Broadway. Her, maybe not on Broadway, maybe she was just in the movie, but anyway, her rendition of like the titular song Cabaret is like definitely gonna make it on my Spotify Wrap this year because I've listened to
it.
There was like a time this year where every single time I was in my car, I was playing Cabaret, and I was like, my roommates, God bless them, every time they're in the car with me, I was like, we're listening to Cabaret.
That's how,
just that song.
Yeah, that's how I am with the song this year. I've been with the song, The Music in the Mirror, from A Chorus Line. All I ever needed. I'm like, I gotta listen to that song, which like, for me, it's not in the car. It's actually mostly at the gym. If I'm like feeling like I don't want to be at the gym, it's like, let me listen to that song and I'm gonna feel like my dance career, like all I need is the music in the mirror, and it's like gonna make me like excited to lift weights,
I don't think I even know that one. I've never seen A Chorus Line, and this is so embarrassing, but the only reason why I know A Chorus Line songs is because of Glee.
Well, that's fine, because I had never seen it until I choreographed it last year. For like the high schoolers at the local theater company in our hometown. And Yeah, and I feel like especially as a dancer,
Yeah.
that is one that it's like, you need to know that show. And I always, in my head, I was like, I need to watch it, but I don't know. I don't know why I never had, and it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I
And
like
that song is so good. It's like, it's obviously, it's not the titular song, but it's like one of the most, I would say it's like the most iconic song of the show. It's like the most, I don't know. I don't know. It's just like, it's like the big number.
Oh.
Besides for like when it's the whole cast. It's just one girl singing.
Right.
Well, but it's like so iconic.
Yeah, what I like about a chorus line is like there's not really so much, well, from my understanding, like a main character. It's like they basically like switch between just like everyone kind of gets their own moment to shine and like tell their story. And I love it. I love like ensemble pieces like that. I think it's sometimes hard to pull off, but like kind of like a perfect genius idea for be like, oh yeah, they're all auditioning and now they all get their number and they all get to tell us their little backstory about why they should get the part and like you feel for them.
Right.
Yeah, I should watch A Chorus Line, but alas.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm drinking, if you're watching, I'm drinking coffee out of this huge mug. It's a Peter Rabbit mug, which I love. It says, night, night, sleep tight, hush, little bunny. Oh, wait, that's so cute. Anyway, yeah, I woke up this morning and my roommate Catherine was like, I'm making everybody breakfast. So she made us chocolate chip waffles with her Elmo waffle maker that I got her for Christmas.
Oh.
So yeah, that was really nice.
Are they like Elmo shaped?
Yeah, they're like Elmo's face. And I got it for her. So she loves Elmo. It's like her comfort thing that she has from her childhood. Like she loves Sesame Street and Elmo. And so I got her a waffle maker for Christmas, and I remember giving it to her, and I was like, "This is so stupid. You're probably gonna hate it. This is so stupid." She opens it, and she was like, "Oh my god!" So she really likes it, and now she makes Elmo waffles all the time.
That's so sweet.
So, yeah,
my sister Mary and Riley, they have like it's like the Death Star, like waffle.
Cool. Oh my god. Yeah. We were growing up. My sisters and I had a Cinderella's carriage kind of waffle maker. We loved it. My older sister Michaela stole it somehow and now she has it. I know, it's up in Chicago. I'm like, girl, please, like I want it. Yeah, that's like one of you know when you have like those like family items that like are so nostalgic to you, but like like it's gonna be a fight for whoever ends up getting it. Like that was one of those items that like, all of us had an attachment to. And of course she got it. Yeah.
Dang.
I
well,
know.
Whenever you go visit her, you should just make you
waffles.
Waffles, yeah.
It's a very good idea, actually.
There you go.
I'm going to do that. Yeah, it's a good idea.
So, shall we get into our book?
I guess so. Laura, ask me when I finish this book. Oh, wait, we both did it.
We both finished we both finished it last night.
At like 1 a.m. Which, by the way, it was, I forgot that it was going to be a, what's it called? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. The time thing. We fell back an hour.
Oh, yeah. It
was daylight savings.
Daylight savings. I was like, what is she talking about?
Anyway, so we got an extra hour of sleep, and so it's like 2:00 rolled around, which was like right after I sent you that text where I finished the book, and I was like, oh my god, it's almost 2:00. I have to go back to have to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden it was 1 a.m. and I was like, wait, what?
You're like, oh wait,
it's like anyway,
yeah.
But
so can I tell we probably have already told this on the pod, but our little backstory lore with Jared Reck and
yes, get into it.
Whatever. So we started a book club in 2019. We read a ton of books that summer, and one of the books we read was A Short History of the Girl Next Door, which we've talked about on this podcast before. We both really, really loved that book, and it was up for one of the awards, I think, that year or the year before.
Yeah,
like I don't remember what the awards are called. Truman Award or something. Or maybe
Truman's there's Truman and Gateway. I can't remember which one's for the younger audience, which one's for YA. But
I don't remember. But anyways, the book was about a 14-year-old boy. And when we started reading the book, I was like, I'm not sure I'm really going to like take away much from this, because like I was a 20-year-old girl and it was about a 14-year-old boy, and I was just like, okay. But anyways, long story short, it got me good. And I thought it was so good. And so I found and I saw that this was the author Jared Reck's first book, and so I just wanted him to know, like, you know, I really, really love this book, and like I hope that he writes more. So I found his email address and I emailed him, and I was like, me and my best friend, like, we read this and blah blah blah, and we weren't sure, like, we were really going to like get that into it, but like it really surprised us. And like I told him like my favorite parts and like why I liked it and this and that. And I just thought I'll just send this out and who knows what happens. He ended up responding, and he was just like, he just seemed so grateful, and he was like, thank you so much, like this is like the best review I've ever gotten or something, or one of the most meaningful or something like that. And he was like, I'm so honored that like I was part of your book club, and like just this really, really nice email. And it was just so exciting because it's like, whoa, like an author like responded to me. I don't know. And so that is just like a big, like, happy, like a really happy foundational part of like event in our friendship. You know what I mean? Like part of our lore, basically. True. And then like 1 year for Christmas, Danielle got me the book, A Short History of a Girl Next Door, and she like printed off like part of the email that I had screenshotted and sent to her. And I'm so glad that she did, because one time when I was cleaning out my inbox, I think I accidentally deleted it, and I'm so sad that I deleted that, but I have part of it preserved. So true. Anyways, now when we're doing our book club this year, and we were like thinking about like, okay, what books should we read? We were like, wait, we need to check back and see, has Jared Reck written another book?
Yes.
And he has. Yes. So that is what led us to pick out this book for a book club. So yeah that's kind of like our backstory with why we chose this one.
Yes. I was also looking on Goodreads, and I realized that I think only like, at least on Goodreads, I know Goodreads is not the whole entire world, but on Goodreads there's only been about 1,000 or so people who have like rated this book.
Oh, really?
And that made me really kind of excited to discuss it on our book club, because I was like, this feels like an unfound gem maybe for some people.
We're getting it on the ground floor.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like I kind of want to talk about a book that maybe not a whole lot of people have seen around. So yeah, and this was such an endearing read to me. I'm really happy we read it.
Me too.
I it touched something in me.
Same. And I bought the book, and I bought it from Barnes and Noble, and they were like, we'll call you when it's ready. Well, 3 weeks go by, no call, no text, no nothing. So I finally go in, and they're like, oh yeah, we sent you an email like 2.5 weeks ago, but you never responded, so it expired. I was like, what? Guys, I'm telling you, I did not have an email from them. I checked all my inboxes, I checked my deleted, I checked my spam. They did not email me.
She scoured her whole
but
entire
it's fine, because they had the book, so I still got it. But I was just like, guys, I tried to get it from like one of my local bookstores, but for some reason, like, this book wasn't available from like the catalogs that they order from or whatever. So
interesting.
But I figured like Barnes and Noble is still better than Amazon. Like, putting more dollars in the author's pockets than the corporation. You know, like, that's what I'm always trying to do.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. And luckily too, based on like the way our schedules were in September, we filmed our Everyone on This Train is a Suspect video kind of early, so we had like basically a month and a half to read this book, and so that gave you plenty of time to because if we were on a time crunch, I feel like it would be like, oh no, like Barnes and Noble,
Yeah.
Don't you know we run a book club? We kind of need this. But no, luckily it all worked out.
So, just like, I'm just gonna give like an overview, I guess, of the book.
Yeah. Do you have a good gut feeling about doing it, or do you?
Yeah. Unless,
Okay,
did you want to?
No, I know. I'm
okay. So this is a YA realistic fiction coming of age book about a kid named Oscar who is a senior in high school. He just started senior year, and him and his grandfather, who he calls Farfar, because they're from Sweden.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, hopefully I'm gonna say this right. They run a food truck together called Hi. Spelled Hejej. And he's really wanting to, he's like ready to be done with school. He's like so over it. He just wants to run this truck with his Farfar. And, but he's got to finish up some classes, and he spends like half his school day in like the cooking lab doing like independent study and like different things. He's like getting credit for stuff, and into his life comes this girl who's like straight A, perfect student, kind of a try hard maybe, and like like really, really cares about school and about getting into the best college, stuff that's not super important to Oscar. And so he finds her kind of annoying, but she has this idea to help like save some of the food waste that's happening at their school, which involves someone needing to cook. Well, Oscar is an amazing chef, so their paths cross. He's annoyed. One thing leads to another, and their lives start being intertwined. So that's kind of like very basic intro.
Yeah, that was really good though.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I know. I think we say this almost maybe every single time, but whenever I read like maybe a coming of age story, I'm always just like, how do I explain the plot? It's mostly the plot is the characters, and like, the characters shape the story.
Right.
And so that's just really like the first third of the book is pretty much what Laura just explained, and then it, as things start happening, I think it takes a lot of different turns that really create a much more in-depth, emotional, beautiful story. So
definitely emotional, which is like we should have expected after reading A Short History of the Girl Next Door. Like, guys, like I should have seen it. I should have seen the emotional range coming better, but
and yet Laura and I were both blindsided. But I will say, I think A Short History got me a little bit more, but like it's like I think
it was more drawn out.
Yeah, definitely. Emotional impact or devastation. Category 5 for for A Short History. This I would say was the waterworks were definitely there, but it was a little better. As far as me waking up with a puffy face. Anyway.
Okay, so remember how we want to kind of speak a little bit longer before we do like spoilers?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to start off with any thoughts or?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so I will just say, I kind of already said this, but again, I feel like I was just like very delighted by this book. Yeah. It was like really, there's not a whole lot of times where I feel like I read books that give me almost feelings that I had when I was younger and read YA a whole lot. This book felt very reminiscent of like 2013, 2014 YA novels to me, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, you mentioned it to me kind of when we both started reading the book. You said that, it's a very fast read. It actually like reads a lot like a John Green book, kind of. Yeah. And like I was so like I latched onto that almost immediately. I was like, this is giving John Green, and I don't know like how exactly to explain it, but it feels like because John Green is a very unique author in which like his tone and voice is I think only John Green can really do that.
Mm-hmm.
But he does this thing where he writes YA incredibly realistically, and he writes it in a way that you feel like he wants to give the voice back to the young adult audience who typically is not taken seriously by adults, which is really heartbreaking because adults are writing YA books. Like, I feel like children and YA books are so interesting because it's like they're the only audiences where they are not in charge of writing their own material or like writing their own books, and so it's really hard to kind of get through to that specific audience or like replicate that specific voice. Jared Reck, I feel like in this book does a really great job of taking teenagers' feelings and concerns and also like that weird kind of time that they're in where you feel like you know everything and you want to get out and taste the world, but like you genuinely cannot do that because you have to rely on adults. And so it felt like this was a book that, to me, it was a YA book that I felt, okay, this is a man, the author, Jared Reck, who understands kind of what teenagers fear the most in life, and also kind of will like hold your hand throughout this book and be like, I got you, I see you, I understand you. Hopefully this book gives you comfort. And so I felt like this was a very good book. If you guys are looking for an impactful, emotional, kind of relatable YA book, and maybe a lot of the books that you see maybe on like Book Talk or like going around YouTube, Instagram, me talking to the youngins, like I'm like whatever you see on the socials out there. But you know, like it's like if you aren't feeling like you're connecting to a lot of YA books currently, I strongly suggest you pick this book up. I feel like Jared Reck has a really great understanding of the YA audience. I think also he is an 8th grade teacher. I
was gonna say, I'm pretty sure he's a teacher,
which makes a whole lot of sense. Actually,
it's like he's like witnessing. I guess this is about like an 18-year-old, but still like that kind of juvenile adolescence, coming of age for sure. He's seeing all the time.
Yeah, I love that. I again, like, I just really think this was like resonated with me because I felt like it was a book I would have enjoyed a whole lot as a young adult person, and like I enjoyed it still as someone in my 20s, which I think speaks to Jared Reck and like his understanding of how teenager stories are actually incredibly relatable and can touch people who are past that time in their life still.
That's so true. And I think, like, you know, I'm gonna bring up Six of Crows like I always do, but like, you know, like books like that take a lot of like mental energy to like keep track of what you're reading and stuff like that. And I like to read a YA book where it's like it's not a lot of mental energy. You are just getting to like enjoy the story, and it's like easy enough to read that like I feel like very immersed in the characters and what they're experiencing, because it's just like so, it's like very natural. It's like the writing is very natural, and so it's like it just feels right to be reading, if that makes sense.
So true. I know, as somebody who I've mentioned 1,000 times on the podcast, I'm a character girl through and through. It's like I do prefer books like this because I want to watch character growth, and I want to witness, like, you know, like strong character journeys and development, and not that they don't get that in Six of Crows, of course they do, but it's there's a lot more that you're focusing on. And so it's like this, to have the main focus be about character development, and like especially because it's YA and a coming of age story, that's like the whole focus is on like Oscar and who he's going to become in his life, and kind of like the curveballs that life kind of throws every single person. I think it's like, I really just enjoyed being able to focus on a character journey, which this book provided. And also this book provides character journeys for every single character. I mean, I guess there's like 3 main characters, and I think Farfar, Oscar, and Lou all go on their own separate journeys. And beautiful. I loved it.
Yeah. Same. I was nervous, like, you know, it's like when you love Inside Out, and then like I was nervous for Inside Out 2 to come out, because it's like, what if it doesn't live up? And it's like, we loved his first book, and I was like nervous, like, what if like I don't like this one, you know? But I was so happy with it. Like, I really liked it.
I will say, without giving too much away, I was really nervous about how this book was going to end, which will make sense when you guys read this book.
Mm-hmm.
The ending packs a punch. Truly. You guys should see me and Laura. Maybe I'll post it on Instagram, but like me and you sending each other photos of our faces when we were done. We were like, oh, okay, right.
Yeah. So
yeah, really great. I don't know what else to.
I know. I just want to get into like spoiler territory so I can feel safe, like talking about anything.
I will say too, I think the focus on relationships in this is really beautiful, because you get to see it from almost every single perspective and angle. And specifically, I really, really, really loved Farfar and Oscar and his grandfather, their relationship. Well, Farfar is like my man.
Yeah.
Like I love him so much. He was
so comforting.
Yeah, such a point of comfort for this book. And he's like one of those characters that to me was just like this old kind of like wizard type of energy where like he knows everything in the world, but he's like he's very very like specific about when he kind of is going to give you the advice that you need. It's like he's such a great, because a lot of times when I'm reading YA and there's like a strong focus on like an adult character, they can feel almost out of place, or like they're kind of butting into the children/teenagers' lives too much. Farfar for me was like, he just had so much wisdom, but he also knew that he had to give Oscar the space he needed to become who he was. And like that to me, I'm like, that is like such a great depiction of like an amazing role model for a teenager to have in his life. And just the way that he also treated Lou and like all of Oscar's friends. I'm just like, that is Lou. He's such a great character.
Yeah.
I loved Farfar.
Yes, actually there was one part that I wrote down where they're watching, I think it was when they were watching one of the soccer games, like maybe the senior night or something, I don't know. And it's like Oscar's best friend Jorge and his brother, and it's something like that, and Farfar is like saying like, you know, that's his boys or one of his boys, you know. And just like the way that like he was like a paternal figure, which like I think that Jorge's parents were totally fine and totally present in his life, but Farfar also like adopted him into their family. You know what I mean? Like he's just like, yeah, that's one of my boys, you know. Like
it's like that man has so much love in his heart, and like he just wants to protect the youth, and it's like, I love him. Yeah. I thought he was so well written.
Yeah, me too. One thing that's not a spoiler at all that I'll mention before we go further is I loved that the chapters had names.
I was gonna say that.
I love that.
It's very, because I don't also read, I'm not so much a reader of young adult nowadays, but like I feel like it's so rare that I see people put creative effort into title names.
I know.
And it's like, it's not like I need every book to have chapters for chapter names for every chapter, but like it's, when I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, like, and they wanted every chapter to have its own little kind of focus. I appreciated that.
It feels like whimsy to me, like we're keeping whimsy alive, we're keeping like it just felt like I'm saying this in a good way, it felt childlike, like it just like made me happy, like I don't know. I just loved it. I loved it.
I know. It feels nostalgic to me.
Yeah. That's
a
good word for it.
Every time I see a chapter name. Yeah. To wrap it all up, I don't know if you could tell, but B and I both love this book and strongly recommend it to people, especially if you're looking for a book maybe that like if you've been searching for a good read, you feel like nothing anyone's been recommending to you has really been hitting, you want something that's going to be like quick to read, satisfying as far as characters, comforting. I would say pick this up because like I said, I feel like not a lot of people are completely aware that this book's been published, and I feel like this is a book that more people should read because and it's also it's a food book, of course, and I think that if you guys are fans of like description of food in your books, which I think is kind of hard to pull off, this I think does food representation very well, and also a whole bunch of food that I've never even heard of. I learned a lot about like Swedish culture. So
this year I've been reading a lot of books that have a lot of culture entwined in them, like different than my culture, and it's just like it's so fun. I'm like, I know, you know, I'm like learning. This sounds so stupid, but it's like, wow, I'm learning stuff. No, but like seriously.
Yeah, it's like I think it's important to try to diversify your reading as far as like reading across the world, you know?
Yeah.
And so even though this takes place in the United States, it's like it's very deeply, you know, trying to educate its audience about like Swedish culture.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I loved it.
And I liked getting to know about the culture specifically through food.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we get more into it through other things, but food being like the focus point was really interesting.
Yeah, they were talking about some word for their holiday table, and they said they also said smorgasbord, and I'm like, wait, my mom says it all the time when we have just like a random assortment of stuff. She's like, okay, we're having smorgasbord today. Exactly. I was like, wait. And I think Lou even said like, oh, like my family says that, but I didn't know where it came from. I'm like, girl, we're so same. We're so same.
Exactly. Okay, well, yay. I think that's, unless if you have anything else to say, B, but.
No, let's just get into spoiler era. So gotcha. I feel like I don't want to. Yeah, I just want to say stuff without feeling nervous that it's going to spoil anything.
Okay, so if you guys have not read Donuts and Other Proclamations of Love, we are getting into spoiler territory, so go read it. Come back if you want to. If you don't care about spoilers, sure, stick around. But we do think you should read it, maybe.
Yes, you should. You should.
But yeah, okay, cool. So bye, everybody. We love you. See you later.
But hi, everybody that's staying.
Hi, everybody who's here.
Okay, so I don't know what to start with. You know me, I just always have all my random notes written down.
Yeah. I have like a bunch of quotes from my Goodreads that I'm like,
oh yeah,
maybe that could be a good reference point, but yeah.
First I just want to say we picked this book because of all the reasons with the author, but we picked at the perfect time because there was a lot of fall vibes in this book. Like,
I know. The apples.
The apples, and they were talking about it being Halloween week, and when I read that, it was like October 27th, and I was like, it's like Halloween week right now for me, and yeah, I don't know, I loved that. That was like a fun little surprise.
I know, there was a bit of Thanksgiving in there too, I believe, and Thanksgiving's obviously coming up. This is our November episode, so perfect time.
Something that I was just thinking about was, you know how half his day was like in like the cooking lab with Mrs. Bixler, I think that was the teacher. I was just thinking about, like, I kind of, you know, I don't think about high school that often anymore, but I was thinking about, I was like, wow, that's crazy that he only has like a few classes and then he's just kind of like doing his own thing. But I was like, when I was a senior, I remember like I had like learning lab, which is just like study hall, and it was supposed to be in like the commons, like the lunch area, which I'm pretty sure Lou, that's like where she's supposed to be for hers, but then she just starts coming to like the kitchen. And it's like, yeah, like I remember I went there like for one day and I hated it. I just felt so weird. And then I like asked my art teacher, who I don't even think I had him for art that year, but I'd had him the year before, and I was like, can I come in during third hour or whatever hour it was? And for the rest of the year, I just went to his classroom or the rest of the semester. And like, it's just so interesting, like, they were supposed to be taking attendance at the like at the commons or whatever, but I was never there.
Yeah.
And, like, I didn't know who to ask for permission to not be there. I just, like, didn't show up ever, and never got in trouble. Like, it was fine.
I did the same thing. I went because I was really into broadcasting, by the way, audience members, in high school. And so, like, what I essentially did my senior year was, like, I got as many electives out of the way as possible, and then just so I could kind of fill up my time with, like, independent study. And so, like, I was in my broadcasting classroom for, like, 3 or 4 hours of the day.
Yeah. So just like Oscar, low-key.
Yeah. Like, it's like when you find your kind of niche thing that you want to do, and, like, you just want to spend your whole entire day in there. Like, I totally get it. Also, Oscar was so relatable to me as a protagonist, because he was somebody who, like, didn't feel like he understood, like, the purpose of school. He was kind of in that really, like, specific point in his life where it's like, you know what you want to do, and you know that, like, anything you're learning in school isn't so much going to benefit you for, like, what you want to do. Which, of course, I think he kind of learned his lesson on this later on in the novel. But it's like, I think when you're not, like, realistically, or you don't feel like you're an incredibly intelligent person, or not even intelligent, but, like, just good at school, it can feel almost, like, so draining and, like, pointless to go to school every single day, especially if you surround yourself with a lot of very, very intelligent people, which Oscar kind of mentioned that he did throughout the book.
Yeah, his best friend was, like, the valedictorian.
Yeah. And then, of course, like, Lou is, like,
probably salutatory.
Applying to all these Ivy Leagues, and is like incredible at school, and that seems to be something that she really thrives in. And it's just like, I felt so much like that during high school, because I remember I was, like, pushing myself very, very hard to be, like, in all these IB classes. I was in a lot of advanced classes. Like, I was trying so hard, and it was like, I didn't enjoy my senior year because I was, like, putting myself in a more advanced, rigorous school schedule because I felt like that's what, like, everybody expected of me. But then it was like, the things that I wanted to do was, like, I wanted to be in my broadcasting classroom, and I wanted to, like, be with those friends, and I wanted, because, like, that was what I thrived in, and that's what I succeeded at. And it's just, I loved the representation of, like, somebody who we don't believe he's, like, you know, we don't believe he's, like
he's not a slacker.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like, he's not somebody who we're worried about, like, oh, he's not going to succeed in life because he's so good at the things that he loves. But, like, he just is, like, he does not have a lot of passion for school because he doesn't feel like he's good at it. And I think that's great representation to have, especially when you're talking to a young adult audience, because it's like, not everybody can be great at school, and it seems like when you're young and school's the thing that you're mostly doing, it's like you feel like you have to be good at this thing, and you can feel quite lost and unsure of yourself, and, you know, lacking confidence if you're not succeeding in that way. And I think this book places an emphasis on the fact that you can be good at other things outside of school. Like, school does not need to be your entire world if you feel like you're not completely succeeding.
I really agree with Oscar when he was telling Lou, like, it's not that big of a deal that you didn't get into, like, the big school, because, like, you can still go to the state school or the other schools and, like, become whatever career you want to do. Like, he didn't necessarily say it in the nicest way to her, but it is hard. Like, I think, like, you're saying, you felt like Oscar was really relatable, and I hope that, like, people that relate to Lou could like hear Oscar's message and see how Lou became okay, that, like, you don't have to, like, go to the crazy big school. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. I think it's also really interesting, kind of, Lou, her whole family story and how that relates to kind of this pressure she puts on herself to overly achieve and kind of in some way I think what the purpose of her in New Pen is like she wants to follow in her brother's footsteps but kind of like rectify or kind of
like
amend amend kind of what happened to her brother and hopefully kind of I think she's almost in a way, which I might be reading too much into it because I don't think this is explicitly stated in the book, but like I think in a way she maybe acts almost like a glass child, if that makes sense, you know, where it's like her brother is obviously somebody who suffers a lot with addiction, and Lou has been really impacted by that, and her family obviously has also been really impacted by that, and I think she tries her best to just get the good grades, go to the good school, you know, fill her resume to like with the best of extracurricular activities, etc., so that way she can kind of be one less worry for her parents, you know, and or at least maybe almost prove something to herself. But yeah, it seems like for her that was like, you know, as we learn her story, it's so interesting kind of the way that we can view this kind of overly ambitious and sometimes almost irritating to Oscar kind of type A-ness that she possesses. And then we learn that I think it's because she has so much pressure that she puts on herself because of her worry of making sure everybody around her is okay. And yeah, I don't know, she's such an interesting character to me. I like her journey a lot.
Text to text connection here. You know me. She reminds me so much of I've mentioned on the podcast a few months ago I read a book called The Improbable Theory of Anna and Zach. She and Anna are so samesies. Like Anna's older sister, like, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's not the exact same thing as Lou's older brother, but a similar sort of situation where the first sibling didn't quite live up to what the parents wanted or thought they could do, and so now the next child feels the pressure to like do everything right, because, and I think like, you know, I think Lou has a great respect for her parents, and like I can relate to that. Like I want to make my parents proud, you know what I mean? Like you know, and I related to Lou in that way, not so much in like, you know, my sister's older than me, like they didn't do anything like crazy, like you know, something like that, but just like the wanting to do well for your parents because you know that they want you to do well, you know what I mean? Like I relate to her in that, not so much of like this crazy pressure to go to like an expensive school or something like that, but like, you know,
100%,
but then I also related to Oscar and him being like, dude, chill, like you're fine, because I felt that way about some people, you know, in high school. Not like, I'm not saying that in a bad way to them, but I just like, come on guys, like we're all gonna be fine, like you know.
I wonder too if it's kind of also a reflection on how both of them were kind of raised, maybe. Again, we don't get too much into Lou's home life. I don't know exactly what her parents kind of, I mean, other than like a few scenes, I'm not exactly sure how her parents and her get along, but it seems like Farfar's upbringing, Oscar's upbringing by Farfar was very much like he places a lot of trust in Oscar. I mean, obviously he'll let him know when he thinks he's straying off course, but like Farfar's very, very patient and like encouraging of Oscar in his dreams, and kind of like wants to help him get there as much as possible. And I think Lou's parents maybe almost treat her almost in a way of like helicopter-y. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that's a real kind of reflection on both of their upbringings. And maybe that's also why Lou, I think, attaches herself so much to Farfar and just like loves like the encouragement that he gives her. I think Farfar is a very comforting presence to Lou, and
that makes sense.
Yeah, like I feel like that's probably why she finds herself so attached to the food truck so quickly. Feels like Farfar is giving her something that maybe she's not getting at home, and that's
right.
Yeah, I don't know if I worded that incredibly well, but like hopefully you guys are picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah, like just a safe space to still like she's still her same self. She's still coming up with new ideas and she's working really hard and like she's still who she is, but I feel like on the food truck it's like Oscar and Farfar are already happy that she's there, proud of her for showing up, you know, excited that she came for pancakes, and like the support is already there, and maybe like maybe at home it feels like she has to achieve these certain things to get the support, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Or it's like also I think her house is a scary place for her sometimes because as it's mentioned in the book, like she's had to save her brother from overdosing.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like that creates such a like a home environment where you don't feel safe because you're constantly worried you're going to turn a corner and find a scene that you do not want to. Like I don't think anybody, let alone like a 17-year-old, should have to encounter that.
I thought that was a really good when we finally learn that about her brother and everything. I was like, which then the book makes the connection like a couple paragraphs later, but I was like, oh my gosh, like that explains A, why she gave a presentation on how to administer Narcan, and B, her reactions when Farfar was telling the story about Oscar's dad passing. You know, she had like a very like almost like wide-eyed like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that this happened, and it's like because she has that could have been her brother, you know, if someone wasn't there to help him in that moment, you know, and it's like she understands so intimately how bad that was, but we don't know because Oscar doesn't know yet like why she's reacting like that strongly about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
I thought that was a really good like way for the story, for the characters, for Oscar and Lou to relate to each other and like be bonded by like, because you know Oscar wasn't really there or aware when it happened, but it's obviously still affected his life because it you know it took his father's life, but like a way for them to understand each other where like that's something that most people their age aren't gonna understand, you know?
Yeah, you know what, I loved the way specific representation was treated in this book. I feel like I'm always, whenever I'm reading YA, because I think specifically YA and middle grade maybe are books where they're trying to authors are trying to educate their readers as much as possible because they know that this is a very kind of like I don't know if malleable is the right word, but like, you know, it's a very
impressionable.
Impressionable, there you go, thank you, audience, where it's like a lot of these things maybe these teens haven't encountered firsthand yet, and it felt like for me it was handled very well because there's a very delicate line that Jared Reck kind of walks where you're kind of able to understand the horrors of certain situations, which in this case is like addiction, because we understand it through like the worst thing, which is like death, through Oscar and Farfar in their situation, and then also kind of through this mental kind of impact that it has on Lou, where she kind of has to prepare. I think that is such an interesting and kind of really delicate way to bring up addiction. And then also what I love is like the way that we're kind of really introduced to the topic outside of Oscar and his father passing away is through the demonstration that Lou gives. But like during that demonstration, it's like, you know, she has classmates who don't understand firsthand kind of this perspective of living with somebody who suffers from addiction. And it's like they can be very insensitive and lacking a lot of compassion and willingness to understand. And it's like Lou being able to kind of shut that down and be like, yeah, okay, well, just because people have a different kind of disease than you are used to seeing does not mean that they don't deserve compassion or to have their lives saved from this. Yeah. And I think there's so many layers to that young adult audiences maybe don't get a whole lot, or maybe if they don't know a ton about addiction, this is a very nice, kind, and informative way to kind of teach this audience about that.
Also, while you're talking about that, I'm just thinking, like, he's in that moment not having compassion for, because isn't he saying, like, well, aren't those people choosing to, like, abuse drugs, so, like, why should we intervene?
Yeah.
Isn't it him at the end whose life is saved because someone intervened? Someone who does not see eye to eye with, you know what I mean?
Yep.
That's crazy. That's crazy, because I hadn't connected those dots yet. But it's like, I don't know if we're supposed to know if Farfar knows specifically that, like, Bryce does not get along with Oscar and Lou because they have like very different opinions on a lot of things. But it's like, like, that's all I need to say. Like, that is just, it's like, what if someone, it's like, hey, Bryce, what if someone thought your life wasn't worth saving because
of the way you treated other people, or like, you did certain things.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. That's really impactful. That's impactful. Yeah. I think that's, oh my gosh, Jared Reck. Speaking of, I was so surprised by the turns this book took, because, like, I mean, at the beginning, I was like, this is going to be such a fun little book read about a guy who works on a food truck, and it's going to be about food, and he's going to hopefully fall in love with this girl who he doesn't get along with, and he has this fun relationship with his grandfather. And then all of a sudden we're talking about things as serious as, like, the KKK and what happens when there are people who come to public spaces and create real hazardous issues and problems and make people feel unsafe because of their discriminatory. Oh, again, I can't say any words. Thank you. Jeez Louise. Beliefs. It was scary. Like, I was actually kind of scared reading that, and then of course the way everything turns out is, like, the worst. Like, I was reading this book in public, and I got to the scene where Farfar gets hit by the car, and I put the book down, and I'm like, I actually have to stop that for the day because that is too much for me. Rightfully so. I think it's meant to be too much for you, but, like, genuinely, it was like I was impacted by that.
I read that. I was at work early, and so I was like charging my phone in a corner, like, reading a book, reading that book, and I read that same chapter, and I was like, okay, it's time for me to put my book in my locker and go join everybody else, and, like, I'm gonna pick that back up tomorrow, because I was, like, shocked.
It was rough, but I think it's the way it was done. Again, like, I think Jared Reck just, like, understood how delicate of a line it was, and he can, like, you can tell he wrote this book with the intention to inform and educate his audience and kind of, like, bring these really kind of ugly sides of life to light, or ugly sides of life to, like, the center of kind of the plot, but then also kind of show how, even though there's such ugliness in the world, there is so much hope and, like, love, and, like, people like Farfar who, like, refuse to give in to that hate or, like, let that hate fully impact the way that he's living his life. I think that's just, like, it was good.
And, I also just liked the way that he wrote the Bryce character, and honestly how he wrote, like, all the characters, because it's like, I can think of real people that we went to high school with that acted like that person or acted like that person or
Yeah.
acted like that person. I feel like it was very realistic, and I think in general we're supposed to not like Bryce and not agree with him. I think that's the way that he assumes most everyone reading this book will think.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like when you're writing a character that's like someone we don't like, that's like, oh, obnoxious because they're gonna say something rude during class, like there's a moment where it can become caricature-y and like very like over the top and like just not realistic. But the things that he did, like when they were in school, I was like, I remember people being like that in high school. Like it was just very, very realistic, which made it very relatable, which just, you know, it just made it real, and it made it like more impactful, you know?
Yeah, I agree. 100%. 100%.
Anyways, I wanted to say something funny.
Okay,
if we want to go into something lighter for a minute.
For sure.
So, you know how he's dating Skylar?
Yes.
And, you know, he's, like, not really so sure that he's, like, that into her, but he's just like, okay, like, my girlfriend, I guess.
Yeah.
There's this part, chapter 26, like, page 209. She, like, comes up to him at his locker, and she's, like, gives him a little kiss, and is like, oh, my gosh, like, la, 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 blah, 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 blah. Yay, I'm gonna go prom dress shopping and blah, blah, blah. And then he, like, a little bit later, like, breaks up with her. But, like, all leading up to that, she's being so, like, lovey-dovey and sweet because, you know, to her, that's her boyfriend.
Right.
This is a text to self connection. No. So I dated this guy one time, and we were going to the park, and we met there, which should have been the first red flag. Like, I should have known instead of, like, driving together.
Yeah.
He was
never
like,
go
let's
to
meet.
a park and go in separate vehicles.
And then, like, we get there, and, like, the first bench we come to, he's like, let's sit down. But it had been raining the day before, so the bench was wet. And I was like, no, the bench is wet. Like, let's just take a walk. I'm holding his hand. I'm skipping around. I'm literally Skylar in this situation. Like, my boyfriend. We walked for like 30 minutes, and then we finally get to like the end of the loop, and he's breaks up with me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I was so embarrassed that I had just spent the past 30 minutes like being like la 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 girlfriend. And I just, when I read that scene, I was just like, Skylar, I get you, girl. I get you.
Yeah, girl, we are one and the same. I mean, although I hope that scene maybe also gave you clarity for how dumb boys can be. Because, like, Oscar was, like, not handling that well, and he knew he wasn't handling it well. And, like, that man also that you're talking about did not handle that well.
Yeah.
So, give your younger self some grace,
Yeah,
truly.
I just was like, this is so, like... This is so real because this happened to me.
Yeah, so true. So true. You know what I was also thinking about when I was reading this? I don't read a whole lot of books about like male protagonists, I'll say.
Yeah.
Written by men.
Yeah.
You know? I feel like I mostly like reach towards like female authors and then also female main characters because that's what I relate to,
right?
Which maybe isn't incredible for diversifying my my bookshelf, but like that's just the way it's happened. And reading this, I was like, you do kind of have to like shift a bit into like getting into a boy's head, I feel like, especially if you're talking about like a 17-year-old boy. Like, I was like, a lot of the ways that he was handling things, I was like, oh my gosh. But I was like, okay, this is a 17-year-old boy,
right?
And not only that, but like it's like extra probably realistic because Jared Reck is also a male author and understands the way that like the teen boy psyche works. And so it's just I was like, I appreciated it because I felt like it was very realistic, but it was also something that was like, I just realized I don't think I actually read a lot of books like this.
Yeah, no, for real. Exactly. That's why when we read A Short History of a Girl Next Door, I was like, wait, am I gonna be able to get into this?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then also though, with our book club, we read that book, redacted, but about the football team. I don't want to roast another book while we're here, but we've talked about it in the past. But it was basically essentially about a football team, a high school football team, and like every male character in that book was just like a dunce, like just really not a fun character to read about because he was so just like not in the know as far as like empathy and compassion and female understanding works.
Right. On that same note, there's a scene where he Lou's like working on her homework in the kitchen, the cooking lab or whatever.
Yeah.
And he can kind of like see her bra, and his brain is like, he's like, like, oh my gosh, like la 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 la. And oh my gosh, that part was like so awkward to read.
I know.
And I was like, it's awkward to read because he's feeling awkward. Like, I really liked, it was like not, Oscar's thinking was not so eloquent, and it was not so, it's like, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like getting embarrassment from like,
I know.
From like knowing his thoughts, but I'm like, that's because when you're that age, it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
like,
it is. Like,
so
for sure.
I just loved that. Like, great writing,
I liked the scene too where like he asked Lou when she first started to fall for him, and she was like, well, I've always thought you were cute, but like specifically like during where'd they go, the church? I think that's what she said. And
yeah, when they're donating the stuff.
Yes, and she goes, kindness is attractive. And then he was like, well, mine was like when I saw your bra strap for the first time. And I was like, that's actually so true. The way that like teenage girls versus teenage boys. I thought that was so funny. And also like just like so in the know for actually how this conversation would go.
That's so that's so funny. Something that I loved, which I feel like you probably loved this too because it was so found family.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite scenes is when he's driving back in the disgusting hot truck that's been sitting in the lot for like 3 or 4 days or whatever, and it's like gross, and he has the windows down because it smells bad, and he's like, how am I gonna do this? Like they don't know if Farfar's gonna wake up. Like he's like, how am I gonna do this? He pulls around, and everyone that's like important in his life is there with like buckets, sponges, all the cleaning stuff, and like that to me, like that actually I had some tears because I just found that so beautiful. I wrote down like, that's family, you know what I mean? Like that is his family. Like, he feels like Farfar is, his one person, which is true. That's his one blood relative that he has. But it's like all these other people care about him the way that they care about their family. And like, that was just like so beautiful to read. And Lou was like, I just called in a few favors. Like,
literally. I love that too. Because like Oscar's journey, you learn he has kind of a low self-esteem that he has to kind of work through little battles every day for or to to cope with, I guess. But like I think that's such a good like eye-opening moment for him to like look around and understand that. I mean, there's a really good line where he says like his Farfar's telling him one of the things like you're going to learn in life is that it's really, really hard to find good help in the world. But then, like, in that moment, Oscar realized that he had help all around him because people loved him, and he just wasn't opening his eyes to that so much. And, like, I think that is just, like, it was so, it's such an important moment. And, like, it touched me so much. Like, I just, like, I think it was just, especially because, like, when you're at that point in the book where it's, like, you feel just as lost as Oscar does. Like, you're genuinely, like, it's a really hard part of the book, and like that part gave it that lift that it needed, that you're like, okay, there is hope in the world. Like, when all is lost, you're going to find community and like people who love you, and who will be there for you, because everybody understands the weight of that grief, and they want to help where they can. And I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, because he spends the whole drive home thinking like, how am I going to do this by myself? How am I going to do this without Farfar? And then it's like, here's how you're going to do it. You still have people, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
Which,
you know what else?
Oh, go ahead. No, wait. You go.
Okay, well, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the ending, but like,
yeah.
If you guys know, of course, you probably know if you're for the spoilers, but like, you know, the ending, like, we think Farfar will probably not pull through. Turns out he does at the very, very end. Like, the very last line is like him walking through the door and like saying, "Oh, hi, Goobin," or something.
Hi, Goobin.
Oh my God, it made me sob. Anyway, but what I love about that is like, Oscar is kind of placed in this battle kind of the entire book, where it's like, he wants to know that he can succeed at this dream that he has of like running the food truck successfully, but also he knows that there's going to be a point in his life where he's going to have to do it alone, and so he doesn't think he can do it without Farfar's help, and that really reaches ahead in this book when like Farfar obviously is in a coma and we don't know if he's going to pull through, and Goobin has to figure out, not Goobin, sorry.
Yeah,
he is Goobin, but like, you know, but Oscar has to kind of figure out, like, he doesn't feel like he can do it on his own. And that's like the whole catalyst of the book is like Farfar's warning him, like, this is going to be harder than you expect it. Like, expect it will. I'm not going to be here forever. How are you going to succeed in this? And at the end, what I love is like, he's able to achieve his dreams and he's able to do it without Farfar, but Farfar does not have to like completely leave his life.
Yes.
In order for that to happen. It felt like so incredibly satisfying to me, where like, yes, where it's like, I'm so happy that Farfar is going to be able to give him, like, be in his life, give him the aid that he needs, but like, Oscar also knows that he is good enough at this to succeed and run it on his own. Yeah. And I just loved the way it ended. I thought it was perfect.
Me too. And, you know, like, throughout the book, we have little hints that, like, things are going to change, because he would say, like, I wish I would have known that was the last time we would be going to that festival, or I wish I would have known that was, you know, stuff like that. And it would just be a sentence here or there, so you'd kind of forget about it. But then when he was in the hospital, I was like, oh my gosh, this is why he was saying this whole time that it was his last festival, his last time doing this, because, like, he's not going to make it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I really didn't know. I was like, you know, I had this feeling like he has to make it, like he has to pull through. But then I was like, but what does all this foreshadowing mean then? And then it means, like, it was the last time on the truck because he opened his own storefront or like at the college or whatever. Like, that was like so, like, like a perfect way for you to like not quite know where it was going, but it was like better than you could have imagined, you know? Yeah.
And like, one of my biggest kind of pet peeves, I would say, in story writing is when I feel like the writers kill off a character just kind of to get an emotional reaction from the audience. And I don't think that if Jared Reck actually went through with Farfar's death, I don't think that would be like unwarranted or like not a good way to kind of end that story. But I think that actually the fact that like we got that epilogue where like Oscar was able to succeed in his career and like Farfar gets to live, I think personally for me that felt like
more emotional
and more impactful emotional ending for sure. And I'm really happy that he did that, because I was scared.
Yeah, me too.
The girls were scared.
And also, like, I think it's just so, you know, the whole book, it's coming of age, it's ending high school and moving into your adult life and figuring out what that means. And like, you know, I think of myself, like, I lived at home with my parents all through college, and, you know, January was the first time I ever moved out, and I had a lot of fears about, like, just like how to do things, because it's just like there's so much stuff where when you're living with your parents, you don't have to figure certain things out, you know what I mean? And I was scared of like, I felt like everyone around me got to take like incremental steps by like going to college and living in a dorm, and that's like, okay, you're not living with your parents, but you're not quite like paying all your own bills yet. Or I mean, some people probably are, but like, you know, you're in the school system. It's like a baby step. And I didn't have that, and so I was like kind of scared that I was just gonna like sink and drown, and you know, but it's just like moving across the country and all that kind of stuff all at once, you know, without my family. It's like the chains, or not the chains, but like the safety net was for the most part cut. And then it's like I figured it out, and like I'm paying rent, I have a job, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I feel like that is like what Oscar was going through. Like he thought he would get to have the baby steps of like learning from Farfar this whole time until it was his time to take over by himself, but he had to just, the safety net was cut and he had to just figure it out. And then he realized like how capable he was, you know what I mean?
Gosh,
which I feel like it was like, it's a horrible way to learn a lesson like that. Like obviously we're not glad that this happened to Farfar, but like, you know, I feel like that let him find his like his power and his confidence in like his capabilities. And now it's like he is like further ahead than he would have been, you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, I really actually think when authors write the almost main purpose of the book to be and life goes on, you know, kind of that being a big message of the book, I find that to be one of the more impactful kind of messages you can have in your book, because I feel like that's one of those things that you learn as you grow. I feel like it's like whenever you think about these really heartbreaking things that can happen, like what both have happened in Oscar and Lou's life, like it seems like that detrimental. And when you're reading it from someone else's perspective, you're like, I don't know how they coped with that. I don't know how that happened. And it was like, well, they went on because as human beings, we have this unimaginable capability to persevere. In like the hardest of times. And it's like you see that specifically in Oscar's journey. And I really like it. I think that's such a great message to kind of have in a YA book specifically.
And even in Lou's, like I don't remember, we don't know where she went to school, right? I don't think it says, but it's like,
I think she might have gone to just like the local school. She gets them sweatshirts, but I can't remember what school it is.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, like in the epilogue, they're like, oh, is she back from break? And it's just like, she was freaking out, you know, 6 months ago about not getting into the school. And it's like, and here she is going to school, you know, like
exactly.
It went on and so she's fine,
sweet.
You know.
So
I loved that the epilogue was like from like a more of a third person point of view, like that it was like a different, it wasn't like from Oscar's perspective as much, it was just like from a more outside perspective. I don't know, I liked that it was different.
Yeah, because like the way the book ends, as far as the chapters before the epilogue, is like a really sad note. By the way, that last chapter when like Oscar's talking about like Farfar's ideal version of heaven, sobs. But it basically ends kind of at that place, and then you get to the epilogue, and I remember being like, and what is this gonna be? And it kind of like, it just like shifts the tone just a bit, to where it's just like you become so incredibly happy for Oscar, and you're getting to like view it from a completely different perspective. I really like that too. I didn't think so much about that, but that was a really good touch.
Also, you talking about the last chapter, like I thought it was really interesting, the whole conversation about like the different chapters in our lives, and like how Farfar really has like pretty distinct periods in his life, you know, when he was in Sweden and married to far more, when he, you know, had his kid, when he was in America with Amir, now when he has Oscar, like, very different. And, you know, you think about that, like, I just feel like Oscar's kind of worries and like anxieties about like would his ideal heaven be with Oscar, or would it be with just Amir? You know, like, that's like a very real thing, not just for teenagers, but I mean, like, I feel like anybody to think, you know, you wonder, like, am I as important in their life as I feel like they are in mine? You know, I just thought that was like, and we don't really get an answer for that. We never get an answer about from Far, but I like that it's just like, it's like a thinking time for you as the reader. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really like reflective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. I was going to say something, but I definitely just forgot it.
That's okay.
Well, you know what else? Sorry, not to also go back into this, but I also thought that the representation of Farvar coming out later in life.
Oh, yeah.
One like incredible, like something I feel like I rarely ever read. And I think that it was done so like almost casually in this book, but also like was meant to be a moment between Farfar and Oscar where he places a whole lot of like respect and trust into like on Oscar to know about this information about his life. And I appreciated the way it was done. I thought it was great representation, and it just like I think makes Farfar just such a unique and beautiful character, which again I just love Farfar. Sorry.
And and I think, like, you know, from Oscar's perspective, like you said earlier, like Farfar's just like, you know how you called him like a wizard who knows all. It's just like, I think Oscar looks up to him in so many ways, and Farfar knows that, and like to see him be worried or anxious about like what Oscar might think or react, it's just like very humanizing. Like, you know, like no one is like immune to like having no anxieties, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
even
so
like
true.
the people that we think that we look up to and we think are so strong and we think like are so sure of themselves, like you never know, you know, like what they're actually thinking, you know what I mean? Or like what they're feeling internally.
Yeah.
What's 100%. Crazy is the book that I just read, Drizzle Dreams and Love-Struck Things. I remember I told you about 4 girls, they live with their dad in a like an inn, and the dad was married, they're from I think India, and their dad was married to a woman. She passed away when the girls were really, really young. And then he comes to America, and he's with a man for a while who also passes away. Then he eventually finds love again with a guy named Amir.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
wait, what?
Isn't that so random?
That's crazy, actually.
Like 2 instances where it's like they are married to a woman and then now they're with a man named Amir.
That's actually insane.
I was like, no way this is happening.
Not this text-to-text connection.
Right. Like, oh my gosh, you know.
It's like, that's how you guys know that it's like, Laura is not even actively trying to text-to-text. Like, it's like,
no.
It's like the connections are happening for her.
They fall in my lap and I just tell them to the world. I love a good text to something connection. It makes me so happy. I hope my 3rd grade teacher is proud of me.
True.
Because we drilled that in.
True.
Yeah. Okay, let me look at my notes and see if there's anything else that I was like really wanting to bring up. Oh, I thought it's funny. We talked about Jared Reck being a teacher. And I'm pretty sure he's an English teacher, which would make sense if he's writing books. Yeah. And it's funny to me that he made Oscar like hate English class.
I know.
You know, and I'm pretty sure that in Short History of the Girl Next Door, they love English class. Like, I'm pretty sure the main guy, Matt or Maddie, like, doesn't he love English class? It's just funny. Like, or maybe just a lot of stuff happens in English class. You know what I mean?
Maybe, yeah. But
I just love that. I love, like, knowing that it's, like, the author's, like, writing, like, you know how people always say, like, write what you know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, oh, yeah, okay. He knows people probably, unfortunately, don't like English class. So he's going to write about it.
I think the teacher representation also in this was really great because, like, I feel like if you went to high school, I feel like almost anybody has that weird special bond with that one teacher who, like, kind of changes their outlook on life in a way. And I loved that he wrote good supportive teacher representation in this
there was
book.
Multiple of them.
Yes, like, especially too, like, speaking about English, like, it's like the fact that, like, the reason why he doesn't like English is most likely because he, I think, has dyslexia, or at least he has a hard time reading.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like it.
And so it's like the fact that his teacher was like, okay, well, here's a more accessible way to read, and then he got hooked on audiobooks, and it's like showing that, like, he doesn't actually hate the act of reading, it's hard for him to do it,
right?
And so it's kind of like having those kind of almost lighthouses in your life, specifically in school, is like so important, and like how impactful having a good teacher who really understands your needs can be for teenagers or just young people in general.
And, like, on that same note, like, all of them handing in their final assignments for him, and it was just like, vanilla cupcakes, please. That was just like, I just thought that was really sweet. Like, you know, I just can't imagine going through something like that in high school, and it's like, you do kind of have to finish high school, but it's like, how do you do that when you lost the most important person in your family, you know? And I thought that was a really good way for the teachers to kind of rally behind him and help him get through those last few weeks and, like, make it doable for him, you know?
100%. Yeah. That's a good point.
It was just a great book.
I know.
It really was.
I feel like, honestly, what we should maybe think about doing in the future is, like, alternating during different months. Like, if we have a high fantasy book for 1 month, like, just read a YA book that's gonna be like maybe comforting, and more so one that, like, we feel like can impact us in a different way than the other one will. But yeah, I'm just really happy we read this book when we did, because of course if you listen to our last book talk, you felt maybe a little bit lukewarm about that one, and I needed to feel attached to a book club book, and this one was a really good one to pick.
And it's way more fun to put out into the world commentary about something that you really love,
that you like. 1000%.
Like, you know, and I just feel like I feel more like happy and proud to be like, hey, listen to our podcast, you know.
We like this book.
So that was exciting that we got to do this. I loved, this is just random, but you know, they play Mario Kart and they're always playing Rainbow Road, and he said at one point they played Wario's Gold Mine, which he says, like, he might hate even more than Rainbow Road, which I just loved because I hate that track. Like, I will not play that one. Really? It is the worst one. It is the worst one. It's so hard. I fall off every time. And I'm good at that game, but I'm not that track.
I loved the Wii representation because, like, again, we are not the audience that is reading that like this book specifically I think was meant for, but like the Wii, for me, I was like, this feels like nostalgic to my actual time in high school and middle school.
And I was thinking about how in our last book I was talking about how, like, I a lot of times don't like when very current things are mentioned, because and I feel like it worked well in this book because he did the Wii as opposed to, like, the Switch or, like, whatever the new PlayStation is that's current. Like, because the Wii is already old, it's already
and still
dated,
relevant.
I don't know, it felt way more natural to me than if they're like, oh, we're playing on the Switch, and it's like, I don't know why. I just feel like it just worked better because it's like we all know what the Wii is and we all remember it in like 2008 or whatever being like the big thing. And it just like, it also, I feel like makes more sense that they would be running on an old console because I think they're not like swimming in cash. And so it's like, you know, and then him getting him like the Wii U as like, here's the next thing, but you know, this one's still outdated too. Yeah. I thought that I really, really liked that.
Yeah. I think my biggest concern when it comes to like authors writing really like present day types of trends in their books is like, you're so worried about the relevancy and like, okay, how much is that going to date this book? But like you were saying, like it's like the Wii came out in like the 2000s and like it's still relevant to this day. Like we don't have to worry about that dating this book because it's written in this book to almost date not date their circumstances, but you know what I mean? Like it's like to show like that their circumstances as far as like how much money is coming into their house and what they can afford is like, right, it's relevant to them in that way. I also felt that way when they were talking a lot about Harry Potter or like Metallica. Like I feel like there's like rarely ever them bringing up present day trends. Right. Like it seems like things that we already know have been in our society's culture for like a hot minute and it's not going anywhere. Like it's already kind of cemented itself in time, so we don't have to worry about like, is this book going to feel outdated in 10 to 20 years? No, not so much, because we already know that the stuff they're talking about has been around and relevant for the past 10 to 20 years.
Exactly. Exactly. Because it's like, if you read this book right when it came out, if you read this book now, if you read this book in 10 years, everyone's still going to know what Harry Potter is. Yeah. It has nothing to do with the year that it was published.
Yeah, 100%.
The year that this book was published, yeah. Bravo, Jared Reck. Way to write a book.
Truly.
Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. Okay, the last thing that I was going to bring up, and I feel like we've already talked about this on the pod, so we don't have to, like, go way into this, but they had their graduation night party that they're supposed to go to so that like nobody like drinks and drives, you know, right? And I was just thinking like, we had that in high school and it was crazy. Like it was crazy in a bad way. Like we were just locked in an arcade place basically with no way out. They took away the food at like 1 a.m. and we're there till 4 a.m. and I was like starving.
Yeah. By the time we reached 1 or 2, I remember being like, I need to go to sleep. Like I want to go home. Also, they had this, the way they were hyping up this, what was it? Zip line. Do you remember the zip line, Laura?
Me and Laura. Of course I remember.
Got in line for the zip line. We were so excited. We were literally about to go into the zip line, and then the people who were like the attendants, they saw lightning in the sky and they were like, okay, the second that there's a storm, we're shutting it down. So Laura and I were about to get on and they saw lightning. They said, okay, we're closing it down. And me and Laura were like,
I mean, we had stood in that line for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, and it was like we had the option of either going on the zip line or doing like go-karts or something. And so we chose the zip line and we could not change our decision. Yeah. And so, not that I even want to go on the go-karts, but like literally, like I was like, the second the zip line was taken away, I was like, what is the point of even being here anymore?
I was so mad.
It was rough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so funny. It's fun to know. I mean, I'm sure not every school in America does that, but it's fun when it's like, that feels so like personal, but it's like, oh wait, we all do that, you know?
Yeah, like it's not like Jared Reck is trying to create like this sensationalized kind of glamorous version of high school that I feel like we see so often on like TV or in some books. Yeah. It's kind of like he's using like actual real life situations that he knows go on in high school, and like because of that, it feels like it's a more relatable and personal story compared to the ones that I feel like I encounter more often than this type of story. But
yeah, I'm excited to add this to my bookshelf.
Yes, it's so nice. It's such a pretty blue color.
I know. I wore this shirt because I felt like it kind of like for the people watching, like all the colors. Like, look, doesn't that look so similar?
Yeah. She's on theme.
I love it.
Cute.
Which for my last night when I went to see Cabaret, I wore green eyeshadow, like turquoise, like this, and I was like, wait. if you saw our Instagram story, I was like, wait, why is it kind of giving?
Yeah, she's matching
the cover.
True.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I feel like that was a really fun.
Discussion.
Sesh.
Yeah.
Book sesh. Book talk. Whatever we call it.
Yeah, I don't even know these days.
I was gonna say yap sesh, but I was like, no, this was the book club.
The book club. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I mean, if you couldn't tell, we just highly recommend this book. So I
yeah.
mean, not recommend this book. We highly like this book. So let us know about your guys' feelings as far as what you thought of the book, how you rated it, if you agree or disagree with anything we said. Just like for real, if you're watching on YouTube or whatever, on Instagram, let us know. Email us.
Drop a comment. Oh yeah. Or email us at readthelastpagebookclub@gmail.com.
Yep.
We gotta start checking the email.
I know.
Okay. I feel like that's it. We did it.
Yeah.
I loved it. Me
too.
All right. Well, then thank you everyone for listening to Read the Last Page. Our music and illustrations were created by the wonderful Sage Timothy.
If you don't know our schedule yet, we host our book club episodes on the first Wednesday of each month. So for next month, we will be reading The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. That episode will be out on the first Wednesday of December. So be sure to pick up a copy and read it by then if you want to discuss with us.
I can't believe December's coming up.
How the heck have we been doing this for so long? The year's almost over.
Okay, but before we get to the last page, we'll see you in 2 weeks for a catch-up episode where it's just besties talking. You can listen to us on your podcast platform of choice, or if you'd rather watch your podcast, you can find us on YouTube at Read the Last Page. And for now, we want to say bye from B
and Dan. Bye.
Bye.